Coxter Groups, Lecture 9, Bruhat order on the symmetric group Sn. Let us start with a quick recap of the Bruhat order on Coxter Groups. Let W, S be a Coxeter system, and let T be the set of all reflections in W. Let L be the length function with respect to our Coxeter generators S. The Bruhat order on W is defined as a transitive closure of the following relation, which is usually denoted just by arrow. So x arrow y means that there is a reflection t such that y is equal to x times t, and the length of y is strictly greater than the length of x. We can equivalently describe the same relation by multiplying with t on the left. So x arrow y equivalently means that there is t such that y is equal to t times x, and the length of y is strictly greater than the length of x. Note that the t in the first description will usually be different from the t in the second description. Now let us recall some basic things about the symmetric group Sn. So we have the symmetric group Sn of all permutations of the set 1, 2, and so on n. So the elements are bijections on the set, and the group operation is composition. This group is a Coxeter group with respect to the set of simple reflections, and this set consists of elementary transpositions which just transpose two neighboring elements. So Si, where I is between 1 and n minus 1, swaps the elements I and I plus 1. The set T of all reflections is then the set of all transpositions I, j, where I and j are two different elements between 1 and n. So we swap I and j. If we swap the neighboring elements, we get the elementary transposition. And the length function can be described using the number of inversions. So the length of an element W in Sn is the number of pairs I, j, where I is between 1 and n, such that I is smaller than j, but W of I is bigger than W of j, the number of pairs which W swaps. In the one-line notation, the element sigma after the transposition I, j is obtained from the one-line notation of sigma by swapping sigma I with sigma j. So we swap the elements which are at the places I and j. So the right action of the transposition permutes the places in the permutation, and the left action of the transposition permutes the images. So the one-line notation for I, j after sigma is obtained from that for sigma by swapping I and j in the permutation. This allows us to describe the Bruhat graph for the symmetric group. So using the above, we can say that we have a relation sigma, right arrow sigma after I, j, which is marked by I, j, means that I is smaller than j, and sigma of I is smaller than sigma of j. So for example, here is the Hasse diagram for the Bruhat order and the Bruhat graph in the case of the group S3. So the Bruhat graph is a graph which depicts the error relations. So we have 6 elements. In the one-line notation, they are written as 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 2, 1. And in the Hasse diagram of the Bruhat order, we have the unique minimal element, and that's 1, 2, 3, the identity, and the unique maximal element 3, 2, 1, and that's the longest element when we write all elements in the opposite order. And 2, 1, 3 and 1, 3, 2 cover 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1 covers both 2, 1, 3 and 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2 covers both 2, 1, 3 and 1, 3, 2, and the longest element is the maximum element. If you look at the Bruhat graph, we have one additional arrow, and that's an arrow from 1 to 3 to 3 to 1, which corresponds to the fact that 3 to 1 is in fact a reflection. Now let us describe covers. So lemma, let x and y be two elements in the symmetric group. Then y covers x with respect to the Bruhat order if and only if the following two conditions are satisfied. Condition A, y is equal to x after the transposition I, j for some I smaller than j, such that x of I is smaller than x of j. And condition B, for any k between y and j, we either have that x of k is smaller than x of y, or x of k is greater than x of j. We know that condition B can be equivalently described as condition B prime. There is no k between I and j such that x of y is smaller than x of k, and that is in turn smaller than x of j. To prove this, let us note that if both a and b are satisfied, then the number of inversions of x after I, j is equal to the number of inversions of x plus 1. And since the number of inversions strictly decrease along the Bruhat order, we obviously have a Bruhat covering of x after I, j over x. Conversely, any cover of x must be of the form x after some transposition I, j, where x of I is smaller than x of j. This comes directly from the definition of the Bruhat order. It's a transitive closure of the arrow relation, so any cover should be of the form arrow, x arrow y. And we know that the description of arrow is exactly in these terms. Now, if there is a k between I and j, such that x of I is smaller than x of k is smaller than x of j, then from the definitions we have that x is Bruhat smaller than x after I, k. This in turn is Bruhat smaller than x after I, k after k, j. And this in turn is Bruhat smaller than x after I, k after k, j after I, k, which is equal to y. So we see that we do not have any cover in this case. And this proves our lemma. And finally, we are going towards the main result for this lecture, and this is a special criterion for two permutations being related in Bruhat order using counting of some points. Let us introduce the notation which is necessary for the statement. So if W is an element in Sn, and I and j are elements between 1 and n, we define Wi, j, the set of all elements S between 1 and I, such that W of S is greater than or equal to j. Here is a combinatorial interpretation for these numbers. Let us look at the usual coordinate plane and let us represent as usually W by its graph. So we have points S, W of S, where S runs from 1 to n. So that's just the graph of W as a function. Then Wi, j is the number of points on our graph that are weakly north-west with respect to the point I, j. So here's an example. We take W to be the permutation 3, 1, 5 to 4, and then W4, 2 is equal to 3. So here is our graph of W. 1 goes to 3, 2 goes to 1, 3 goes to 5, 4 goes to 2, and 5 goes to 4. We take the point 4, 2, and we want to compute the number W of 4, 2. So we take the point 4, 2, that's this point, and we look at all points in our plane which are weakly northwest, so upper or to the left with respect to our point. And there are 3 points in the graph which satisfy this condition. 4, 2 is one of them, and then we have 1, 3, and 3, 5. So this means that W of 4, 2 is equal to 3. Now we can formulate our main result, the following theorem. For two elements x and y in Sn, the condition that x is less than or equal to y with respect to the Bruhat order is equivalent to the following condition, that xi, j is less than or equal to y I, j for all I and j. Proof. Let us start by proving the implication from left to right. Let us denote by x and then this kind of triangle y the condition that xi, j is less than y I, j for all I and j. Then, directly from the definition, it follows that this triangle is a partial order on Sn. Assume that we have two elements x and y, which have the arrow relation between them, so x, arrow, y. Then y is equal to x after a comma b for some a and b between 1 and n, such that a is smaller than b, but x of a is smaller than x of b. So how do we obtain y from x, or the graph of y from the graph of x? In the graph of x, we have the points a, x of a and b, x of b. And in the graph of y, we change a, x of a to a, x of b. And we change b, x of b to b, x of a. And this implies that the value y, I, j is equal to x, I, j plus 1 in all cases where I is greater than or equal to a but less than b, and j is greater than x of a but less than or equal to x of b. And yij is equal to xij in all other cases. So here's the illustration. We have the points a x of a and b x of b, and we get a x of b, b x of a. And whatever is in this gray region falls into the first case, and everything else is the second case. But then we clearly have that x triangle y, and so because triangle is a partial order and arrows generate the Bruhat order, we see that the Bruhat order implies a triangle order. So we have proved one implication. To prove the second implication, we need some auxiliary observations. Observation 1. For any w in Sn and any I in n underlined, wi, 1 is equal to I. That's of course just the claim that the first I columns of the graph, each of them contains exactly one dot. Observation 2. For any w in Sn and for any I between 1 and n, wn, I is equal to n plus 1 minus I. That's just the claim that each of the rows, which are numbered by I plus 1, and so on n, each of these rows contains exactly one point of our graph. And observation 3, for all pairs k and I between 1 and n such that k is less than or equal to I, and all pairs j and l between 1 and a such that j is less than or equal to l, wij minus wil minus wkj plus wkl equals the number of points s strictly greater than k and less than or equal to I, such that w of s is greater than or equal to j and strictly less than l. And this is just a direct consequence of the inclusion-exclusion principle. We take all points which are northwest of I, j, we subtract those which are northwest of I, l, and those which are northwest of k, j, and then we add those which are northwest of k, l. And this exactly counts the right-hand side of this equality. Now we can prove the implication from right to left. So assume that x and y are two elements in Sn such that x, I, j is less than or equal to y, I, j for all I and j. Let us define di, j as a difference between y and x, I, j. That's a non-negative integer. If d is identically 0, then of course x is equal to y, so there is nothing to prove. So let us assume that some di, j is greater than 0. Let us choose I, j such that di, j is strictly greater than 0, but di prime j prime is 0 for all pairs I prime j prime such that I prime is less than or equal to I and j prime is greater than or equal to j. But they are different from I, j. Then, in this case, we have that y of I should be j and x of I should be strictly smaller than j. And let us view our dij or dst as a matrix. So in particular, our dij is a particular entry of that matrix. So it's an n times n matrix with no negative integer values. or entries, and the particular entry dij with these assumptions is strictly positive. Now let us choose a greater than or equal to I and b less than or equal to j, such that the submatrix with top left corner I, j and bottom right corner a, b has the following properties. First of all entries in this submatrix should be strictly positive, and this submatrix should be maximal possible, so we cannot make A bigger or B smaller. Next, let us note that from our observations 1 and 2, we have that ds, 1 is equal to dn, s is equal to 0 for all s. And this means that b is strictly greater than 1 and a is strictly smaller than n. This allows us to reinterpret the second condition as follows. There exists P between I and A and Q between B and J, such that dP, B minus 1 is 0 and dA plus 1, Q is 0. But then the following linear combination is strictly positive. dA plus 1 B minus 1 minus dA plus 1 Q minus dP B minus 1 plus dPQ. This is because the two terms with sign minus are 0 by our assumptions. One of the terms is strictly positive, and so the whole expression is strictly positive. And the term which is strictly positive is this term because of our assumptions 1. Now, by observation 3, this implies that there is an element S between P plus 1 and A plus 1, such that y of S is between B minus 1, Q minus 1. And for such an S, we have that I is smaller than S, and y of I is greater than y of S. And so if we consider the element Z, which is y after the transposition of y and S, we will have an arrow from this element to y. In particular, Z is strictly smaller than y in the Bruhat order, and in particular, the length of Z is strictly smaller than the length of y. At the same time, by the equations from the first half of the proof, Z u, v equals y u, v for almost all uv, except for those in the submatrix indexed by I, s times y of s, y, I. And for those entries, Z u, v equals y u, v minus 1. But due to our choices, all the D entries for that submatrix were strictly positive, and so we will get that all entries for that will be weakly positive, which means that Z u, v is greater than or equal to x u, v for all u, v. But now the element Z has strictly smaller lengths, and so we can complete our proof by induction on the lengths of the element y. The basis of the induction is when the length of y is 0, means of course that x is equal to y is the identity element. That's trivial. Additional problems and questions at the end. Problem question 1. Compare 362145 and 416253 with respect to the Bruhat order. Problem question 2. Determine all wi, j for w being 374 to 165. Problem question 3. Use a Bruhat order criterion to determine the Bruhat graph on S3. Problem question 4. Use the Bruhat order criterion to determine the Bruhat order on S4. And problem question 5. Use the Bruhat order criterion to show that 1, 2, and so on n, so the identity, is the minimum element, and n and minus 1 and so on 1, so the longest element, is the maximum element with respect to the Bruhat order for any n. Thank you very much, and see you next time.